Support for Audacious with Chion Wolf provided by a generous contribution from Suzanne Hopgood in memory of Frank Lord.
Hello, passengers, and welcome to Audacious Airlines from Connecticut Public Radio based in Hartford. This is your captain, Chion Wolf. Most things that are built for motion are not built for permanence. They're designed to move people along. Well, today's flight is less about getting somewhere and more about staying somewhere and in something. Meet people who've made their homes in places built for motion, like a retired jetliner deep in the woods of the Pacific Northwest and cruise ships moving from port to port with new neighbors every week. On the first leg of this journey, you'll meet Bruce Campbell. He's spent the last 25 years living on a decommissioned plane. Bruce is 76 years old, an engineer, and in 1999 he spent $100,000 to buy a Boeing 727. It's parked on a 10-acre wooded plot in Hillsboro, Oregon, a suburb about 35 minutes west of Portland. When he's not living in his home sweet Boeing 727, he's in Japan, where he hopes to build a second airplane abode. And visitors from around the world come to see Bruce in his airplane. He gives curious travelers tours of his living quarters, which include a futon for sleeping, a shower and lavatory, no smoking, please, and a full-size washing machine. His kitchenette has everything you'd think a kitchenette should have: a sink, a microwave, a fridge. Oh, and an original 727 food service cart that he repurposed as a pantry. 'Cause you gotta have a pantry. And of course he takes his visitors into the cockpit to show off all those buttons and knobs.
Is don't want to use that as much as you want, as long as you like, but when you're not using it, turn it off. All the rest of the controls, you may exercise. Push any buttons, rotate any knobs, flip any switches, and these are the interior cabin lights. When the main cabin lights go out, you might need these to reset the main cabin lights. I could show someone how to do that.
Moseying through the belly of the aircraft, visitors can look down through the transparent floor Bruce installed and see the wires, the cables, the guts of the thing. And I imagine that seeing all that wiring sparks the same questions in people. How does living in this plane work? And how does Bruce work? What kind of person chooses this life, then builds it, maintains it, and opens it up to strangers? I wondered that too. But first we begin with a little turbulence.
Good morning, Bruce.
Good morning.
How are you? I'm Chion. It's so nice to meet you.
Hi, Chion. It's nice to meet you too, but a glitch has occurred. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I'm passing a kidney stone.
Oh my God. Get the hell off the phone. Thank you. Thank you for connecting with me. Go, please.
No, I'm not suggesting that. There's really nothing I can do. And frankly, I can do the interview. Whether it will be tenable or not, I don't know, because I may not be able to focus well enough. On the other hand, maybe you have a journalistic first. Maybe this will be the world's first interview with someone who's passing a kidney stone. Sorry, bear with me. Oh.
Oh my God, Bruce. Bruce. I so appreciate that you want to do this interview, but we're not doing this interview. Please rest, and we will reschedule. There's no rush whatsoever.
Sorry, bear with me.
My friend, please go be with this enormous pain, okay?
Well, bear with me just a moment. Let's see what passes.
Well, I appreciate that you want to go through with this, but I don't.
Yeah.
I would rather you be in a more less painful state. So please go chill out, do whatever you got to do, and we will reconnect, okay?
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Peace, my friend. We'll talk later. Good luck out there. I wanted you to hear that because it tells you what kind of person Bruce Campbell is. The kind who does not seem particularly interested in doing things the easy way, which is part of how back in the late 1990s, he ended up deciding that instead of building a regular house, he would live in this retired Boeing 727. 6 days after his layover with a kidney stone, and feeling much better, Bruce rejoins me to tell his story. And if his audio doesn't sound like what you're used to hearing on this show, just remember we're not in a studio, and I'm talking to Bruce from his home on a plane deep in the woods of Oregon. Anyway, here he is.
Well, there's a little bit of background story. I'm an Air Force brat. I've been around aviation since literally the day I was born, to aerospace in general, because when I was born, we lived near an Air Force base. When I was growing up, we lived near an Air Force base. That's just the way life was. So I was always around aviation. And I did become a pilot, though not for the Air Force nor airlines. It wasn't a career move. It was just a personal addition to my life for personal recreation and convenience of travel. So I came to Oregon for work after graduating from college in Colorado. It was a recession period. I only had one job offer, but I was happy. It was the one company I most wanted to work for. And I soon bought land because my parents said, Bruce, buy land. They can drop a bomb on it. You still own the crater. And it seemed like wise counsel. In any case, I bought land and devoted every penny into the mortgage until after very roughly 3 years, I had the deed in my hands. And I had the option of creating a nice home, which I could live the rest of my life in and presumably be happy in, or at least pursue happiness in. But had I done so, I'd have been trapped in the career framework. I would not have been able to just quit if life beckoned from another corner, if I felt a need to explore, or if I became bored with my boss or entangled in disputes with my boss or whatever, any dysfunction which might have arisen, I'd have still been trapped in an income-producing environment, which I couldn't just walk away from because there would be the mortgage. So I decided not to do that, and instead saved and invested, and lived in a very inexpensive mobile home, which I bought with simple cash. It was used mobile home and small and inexpensive, but it was enough. I was living a very humble life, which afforded extra cash, which I could invest and stash so that I could work my way toward buying a home, a more permanent home with actual cash and never feel entrapped. And that took time, of course. And by the time it happened, I was a more seasoned engineer. And so the dream was basically still the same. Okay, it's time to create a permanent home on, quote, my, end quote, the state still is the landlord, my land, and then pursue happiness from there. But as a more seasoned engineer, I took a step back and said, wait a minute, let's examine this question as an engineer. What's the finest materials and fabrication technology I can acquire for my money? And of course, the aerospace background kicked in and the engineering experience kicked in. The finest materials and fabrication technology is aerospace. So jetliners are flying homes. They're more than large enough to live in, and performance metrics are vastly superior to any conventional home. And even better, they're less expensive than conventional homes. So, unconventional though it was, which didn't bother me at all, that was the obvious choice, and that's what I pursued.
How does one go about buying an airplane?
It's pretty straightforward, although there are a variety of avenues. Jetliners retire at the rate of very roughly 3 every day, including weekend days. Most are flown to scrap yards, or as I occasionally refer to them, death camps, where they're shredded. So any individual buyer can approach a boneyard site and simply pitch your price. And in some cases, for example, one U.S. airline, and frankly, I forget which it is. I'm not trying to be coy. I just forget which it is. But they have a website in which, if you sign up to receive the website information, you'll receive links, and they announce which aircraft they're going to retire, when they're going to retire them, and open them for bids. And if you bid a buck more than the next person, and you're credible, meaning you have a credit card, so you'll go to their final site and put fuel in the wings and have a ferry crew ready to fly it away, it's your baby. You can just buy a jetliner. And also for budget-minded people, last a colleague of mine looked, you could purchase MD-80 and MD-90 jetliners fully intact, fully operational, except with no engines. It's typical to remove the engines and store them in a cleaner and safer location when aircraft are retired. So no engines, but otherwise fully intact, fully operational for $35,000.
Wow.
Yeah, they're inexpensive, man. It's aerospace quality. So I often regale a little option or a little suggestion to guests in which I say, look, if you find this vision compelling, and this is about the right size for you, consider MD-80s or MD-90s. You can execute an entire project with no damage to your aircraft so that it arrives fully intact, fully operational, airworthy, and stays that way for about $100,000 plus the cost of the property you're on.
So, how did you pick out your plane?
I partnered with a salvage company. That was a whopper class mistake, big mistake, my biggest. And I also, to add injury to the mistake, allowed them to select the aircraft without any review on my part. So they simply selected a retired 727. This one was an Olympic Airways jet, which was in Greece, sitting on the tarmac at Athens International Airport, and assembled a ferry crew and flew it to Hillsborough Airport, about 20 kilometers from my property, from where I am now. And the process began. My partner knew the salvage company was a massive mistake, and I advise everybody, don't do that. Except that if you do, treat them not really as a salvage company, but as a site operator, a staging site operator, and separate what they do for a living from what your project is going to be. Make sure you have a good, solid contract so that they don't touch the aircraft.
Now, this is not any old plane. It's got some history behind it, yeah?
Well, this is a Greek airliner, 727-200. It flew for Olympic Airways its entire career and was based in Athens International Airport. Flew 40,000 flights, very roughly, and about 40,000 hours. Evidently, it ran commuter flights back and forth in Greece, mostly domestic flights. However, there was at least one flight out of Greece, probably several, but one of note, and that was to return Aristotle Onassis, who owned the airline, on his very last flight to Greece for his burial. So he was in my jetliner. In fact, he was located just a few meters from where I'm perched right now, and a little bit below me in my aft cargo compartment in his box being taken from Paris, where he died, back to Greece for his burial services. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Keister was in one of my seat cushions, and Ted Kennedy and other dignitaries at the time as well, escorting him back for his services.
Is his ghost still there?
Yeah, and I've got a couple of ghost symbols, ghost toys from the dollar store, which hang in my aircraft. And at some point, I want to put one down in the aft cargo bay in horizontal position, braced just enough so that a fan can cause the sheeting to flutter, and then point out Aristotle-san to my guests.
Aristotle-san, I love it. When you think about the idea catching on, do you feel like people living in retired jetliners could be something that, forgive me, takes off?
Yeah, I really do. The vision has never been cleanly demonstrated. People have not had a chance yet to experience this in the form they need to experience it to really pursue the vision with abandon, which you sort of need to do. You can't go into it tepid or careful way. You need to throw everything aside and commit to it and proceed aggressively. It's unusual, unconventional, and you'll have lots of sales jobs on your hands in order to get it through, depending on the country. New Zealand might be the best place to go, as I advise many guests. Kiwis, in my experience, have shown more interest in this vision than any other area on Earth. And I think they see more clearly into the vision.
You welcome people into your home, into your plane. I wonder how people hear about you, and maybe what are the most common questions you get?
The internet is powerful, of course, and especially in Asia. Asian cultures are more enthusiastic about this for, I think, a variety of reasons. One of them is that they're not quite as conflicted about technology, I think, as American culture is. It's more of a move forward. That's how to make life better attitude, whereas Americans, I think, are not certain in all cases. So it's more instinctively appealing. It seems more fundamental, interesting, I think, for many Asian cultures than for Americans. I have more Taiwanese and Chinese visitors than any other group by volume. Second is Slavic people, Russians, Ukrainians, and Belarusians, a few Moldovans and Georgians. And they're fun. They're so much fun. And also, they have deep connections with wing concerts and provide some of the best shows here. They're great.
Wait, you said wing concerts?
Yeah, artists perform on the right wing. Guests make merry all around. And they're a hoot. They're a lot of fun.
I know. How could you not have a great time with a concert on a wing?
Yeah. I have a dear friend, Yuko-sama. She's a pianist and composer and singer. I met her in Miyazaki, where I live when I'm in Japan. And we had lunch one day and talked about, maybe a concert in America. And yeah, well, I've got this jetliner and we could do one on the right wing of the jetliner. I want to do that someday with somebody. And Yuko-sama is now in a unique position in the universe because she can say, I have not lived. Actually, I can say, I have not lived a substantial proportion of the 13.8 billion year age of the universe, nor have I visited a substantial number of the roughly 100 billion galaxies in the universe. However, to the very best of my knowledge, dear friend Yuko-sama is the first person in the history of the cosmos to perform a concert on a wing of a jetliner, and it was just a few meters away from me on my right wing.
That's Bruce Campbell. He's a 76-year-old engineer and pilot who's spent more than 25 years living in a retired Boeing 727 in the woods of Oregon. We're going out with a recording of that historic wing concert he mentioned, featuring Yuko-san, accompanied by Haruyuki-san from 2016. When we get back, Bruce explains why a plane's final landing place might just be the start of something bigger.
My team's goal is to put an end to all jetliner salvage so that every aircraft which is retired from service ends up becoming a home, small business, or emergency provision shelter for disaster-prone zones.
And meet a couple who've made cruise ships their homes for the past 5 years.
We own nothing, so we can go wherever we want, whenever we want, and change it up.
I'm Chion Wolf. This is Audacious. Stay with me. This is Audacious. I'm Chion Wolf. We're back in the Oregon woods with Bruce Campbell, pilot, engineer, airplane dweller, and as you now know, not somebody who cancels interviews in a health crisis, like passing kidney stones. Bruce has spent more than 25 years living in a retired Boeing 727 nestled in the woods outside of Portland, which is either a wildly impractical idea or a deeply logical one, depending on your perspective. At some point in the future, he hopes to have a second home, plane, that is, in Japan, a completely intact aircraft. In this part of our conversation, we talk about what the plane requires, what it gives back to him, opportunities to connect, and what it means to make a life inside something built to fly. Let's do some easiest and hardest. What is easiest about your life living in this plane, and what does living in this plane make really difficult for you?
The easiest thing is that the aircraft is remarkably well designed and fabricated. Structurally, maintenance is quite low because it's rugged and it's fabricated to last forever. Ordinary homes eventually decay. The materials are basically organic. The fasteners are basically metal spikes, and insects and rodents find their way in by eating through or chipping through. There are lots of maintenance problems with conventional homes. They're not horrible, but they're not jetliners. They're not sealed pressure canisters. Insects can't get into a jetliner, much less rodents.
That could be a really major selling point, by the way.
Yeah. Many of my guests find that quite appealing. So, it's a strong, waterproof, sealed pressure canister. Maintenance is very low. In my case, I need to inflate the landing gear struts every roughly 18 months and the tires roughly every decade. There's no wood, none. And it's aerospace class fabrication. The one limitation is insulation. It's very high quality, but it's thin. So the insulation is just not very effective. It's effective, but it doesn't compare to modern homes. So anybody who's considering this vision, consider that.
Let's flash forward, I don't know, maybe a couple decades, and you are no longer in a body. I don't know where you are, but you're dead.
Yeah.
What would you like to happen to your airplane after you're dead?
Well, in my estimation, if things proceed as I hope they proceed, or even slightly so, my aircraft won't be relevant anymore. There'll be much, much better symbols of the vision, and hopefully in great numbers. My team's goal is to put an end to all jetliner salvage so that every aircraft, every jetliner-sized aircraft, which is retires from service, ends up becoming a home, small business, or emergency provision shelter for disaster-prone zones. So in the latter case, for example, if an area is populated but has volcanoes nearby, or earthquakes especially, typhoons especially, if they're vulnerable, they need a place for emergency provisions, food, water, and medicines. And jetliners can store that material very safely. They're not vulnerable to earthquake damage. So for areas which can suffer damage from these disasters, having provisions in a jetliner makes perfect sense. Inexpensive shelter and secure shelter, and it just works.
I wonder how you hope to be remembered.
I'm not a fan of mortality. I've never been a fan of mortality since I was a child and first learned of it. I thought, okay, this is a stupid concept. You have to fix this. I'm not going through life and learning math and science and everything else just to have it all go poof in some future decade. No, that makes no sense. No more mortality. Fix it. And the response I got, well, we don't know how. Maybe you should do that. And maybe I am, because there's no law of physics which prevents immortality. And there are some creatures on planet Earth which literally are immortal. If they're not injured or attacked by horrible pathogens, they live indefinitely. They never degrade. It's certainly physically possible. And human beings need to ask themselves how long they would like to live. For me, this is a very simple question. Forever. There's never going to be a morning or an afternoon or any other time during the day when I say, okay, I've done everything I wanted to do and nothing's fun anymore. I quit.
Not even kidney stones?
And not even, well, yeah. The proper solution, of course, is resolve the kidney stones, resolve the pain.
Yeah.
Humanity as a whole, resolve the suffering and eliminate that. And then let's be immortal. We can throw frisbees with each other until the end of time.
So you'd like to be remembered by not being remembered because you're still alive.
Yeah, I don't want to cease to exist. There's a lot of information and a lot of experience, and I've worked hard to develop it, and I've had a good time too. But it's completely wasteful to let it just go poof. My mind is a database, and it's a hard-won database. All the organization of the data, the accumulation and refinement of it, and it's a lot of investment has been made, and everybody else too. And that investment just disappears when you die. It's all lost. It's like erasing a storage device, and it just makes no sense. As an engineer, from an engineer's perspective, it's totally wasteful. No reason for it.
When you're talking about the wastefulness of a life ending and just everything going poof, it sounds sort of like you're talking about the planes.
Yeah, I guess so. There's certainly a similarity there. Advanced materials and fabrication technology, no wood, nothing degrades. It's an enduring structure.
And you want to be one too.
Yeah. Nice and shiny.
You have a lovely voice. And I wonder if you have the cockpit intercom still installed in this plane. And if so, do you ever use it?
Sadly, no. It was devastated by the salvage company. And it surprises me that you find my voice appealing. It seems very rough to me, and it's highly variable from different times of day.
That's what makes it so great.
Well, maybe. I'm pleased to hear it.
Because there were times where I was listening to you and I thought, gosh, I kind of want to hear him say, "Good evening, this is your pilot speaking. We are 3 feet above the ground. We are hungry. We'd like to go out to lunch." I think you could do it. I think it would be great. I'm sorry you don't have the ability. I mean, maybe that's a new project, is installing that system.
Yeah. Well, version 2.0 will have it. It'll be intact. There'll be no disassembly, no removal of components. Everything will remain intact. She'll be a full bird.
I want that for you.
No, I'm looking forward to it too.
Well, Bruce Campbell, thank you so much for talking with me.
My pleasure entirely.
After the break, what if happiness meant owning less and living on cruise ships?
It isn't about the stuff, about how many cars you have, what kind of car you have, but what is your passion in life? Find your passion and do your passion, because you only have one life.
I'm Kyone Wolf. This is Audacious. Stay tuned. Ahoy, passengers! This is your Captain Kyone Wolf speaking to you here on the SS Audacious. We've completed the air portion of today's journey and are making a smooth transition to sea. Please take a moment to locate the nearest life preserver, deck chair, buffet, and a new version of what most people think of when they think of home. Because next, we're meeting two people for whom cruise ships went from being just a getaway to becoming their every day. Angelyn and Richard Burk are a married couple from the Seattle area who, after losing all their belongings in a freak accident, embraced minimalism. Since 2021, they've spent the majority of their time on cruise ships, with some significant planned excursions along the way. We spoke while they were all ashore in beautiful Santiago, Chile.
Really, this all started back in 2013 when we were moving from Texas to Washington State, and we got a call that all of our stuff that the moving company was taking to Washington State burned up in a fire. There was a pileup on black ice in El Paso, Texas, and they sent us pictures that the trailer completely burned down. We've lost everything. And they thought I was going to be upset. I really wasn't. I was very happy. For two reasons. One, I had replacement insurance. And two, I didn't have to unpack any of that.
And that set us down the path of becoming minimalists, because at that point, we didn't have to buy a whole lot. We just needed to buy enough bed sets for the two of us and for the kids versus all the extras that we had before the fire.
So then we went down the road of minimalist. We were like, okay, this is great. This really feels freeing to us. So we'll be minimalists in our house. And then we decided to build a house, our forever home. And while we were building that, we were watching on YouTube a couple called Kara and Nate. They were a young couple traveling the world on very little cost. And that was probably 2018 that we saw that. And so we thought that's pretty cool, to travel. We could do that in our retirement. And we thought, well, that would be pretty cool. So me being the accountant, look at the numbers to find out how much it would cost to live in, let's say, Milan, Italy. And back then, Airbnb costs weren't as bad as they are today. So it was a lot cheaper, $500 a month to stay in Milan for a month. And I thought, this is doable. We can actually live cheaper traveling the world. But we really like cruising. And so we kind of morphed into this, let's cruise instead of moving from place to place. But now we've morphed into let's cruise and travel from place to place, staying in places for a little bit longer. So even though we spend more than half our year cruising, we also spend time in other countries. And people do say, how can you cruise full time? Well, cruising full time isn't what you think it means. To us, that means when we have time to cruise, we cruise, but we still go see our children. We don't just stay on a cruise ship 24/7. And we get off the ship and stay in places for a week here and there. And so that's how we kind of morphed into it. It's not really a set, we took a cruise and then we thought, let's just do this forever. Not what happened.
I want to hear about the moment you crunched the numbers and you realized, oh my God, this could actually work. What did you feel when you realized that there was a whole new option there for you?
We were excited. Looking at some of the cruise lines and how much the cruise costs were, and we were calculating, well, that includes our food, that includes traveling. So instead of taking an airplane across the Atlantic or the Pacific, we took those costs and look at those. And we go, we could take a cruise for the same price. Yes, it takes 2 weeks, but still, we're not jammed into this seat in economy and not enjoying ourselves for 13 hours. And so the numbers just worked.
Will you take me through a day in your lives now, from like waking up to lights out? Do you have any routines that you've built around this being a regular lifestyle?
Up and out of bed and out of the room in 15 minutes, or it could be an hour. So we have breakfast. We enjoy chia pudding, and then we start walking. I will walk 15 to 20,000 steps a day. At one point, I was doing 35,000 steps a day. Go off ship, or for like in Santiago right now, we'll probably go for a walk and explore, find grocery stores, that sort of thing. It's really very mundane stuff that people probably would do at their house anyway.
Except our house moves.
Your house moves.
Yeah.
I just got back from my very first cruise, and I loved how I could be both totally solitary, or I could be totally engaged with the hundreds or thousands, in my case, of people who are on that ship with me. And so here you are on these ships meeting, I can't imagine how many people. I would love to hear how that is for you. Like, are there times where you kind of want to turn it off and you go into your cabin or into more of a secluded part of the ship? Or like, does being around people light you up? How is that relationship with the tens of thousands of strangers you've met while doing this?
Wow, we have met a lot of people, and some people we've met years ago on cruise ships and still are in contact with. We like to play games, usually in the game room on the ship. And so we meet a lot of people there. And then you start talking to them, and it's a bonding thing. They love to cruise. We love to cruise because we're both on cruises. So we already started in some commonalities. But there are times, you're right, where you just want to turn it off. So I go to the library and I pick up a book and I go to the room and I just chill. I can be in complete solitude and enjoy myself. Or if we want to go out, we can go dance on the dance floor in where they're playing music. There's so many possibilities when you're on a cruise ship, and how, if you want to spend time with others or if you want to just spend it in solitude.
Has there ever been a moment where you're like, I don't know, this is getting kind of old?
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes. We've noticed that if we're on a cruise ship for more than 2 months, we're ready for a change. And I don't think it has to do with the cruise ship so much as it's kind of ingrained into us. We both grew up moving a lot as children, and it feels weird to be in a place for a long period of time and we enjoy the get up and move situation. So I get excited when we're ready to go on to a different ship or go into a new port. It does get old after a while, but you can change it up. That's the great thing is that we own nothing. So we can go wherever we want, whenever we want, and change it up.
What are some challenges? Like, in what ways does this totally suck?
There's a few challenges with living on a cruise ship. One is medical, because medical on a cruise ship is extremely expensive and limited. They will do cuts and bruises and certain things and triage, but when it gets to a certain point, they medevac you out of there. They either take you into a port and drop you off and all of your stuff, and you're completely off the ship. Sometimes they're out at sea. And they're close enough. They get close enough to a coastline where they have a helicopter come and take people off. All that situation is very, very expensive, which is not anything that we want to do. But when we do have health situations, yeah, that comes to mind. I've had a situation where I thought I was having a heart attack one time, and I told my husband, whatever happens, do not let them medevac me off the ship.
Oh, American healthcare.
Yes. But we found out medical in other parts of the world is quite good. It's quite reasonable and quite affordable. Not too long ago, within the last month, we were at a port in Malta, and I wasn't doing well, wasn't feeling very well. Went to a clinic. They wanted $200 in US dollars to see me. Didn't have the $200 in cash. So they directed us to an international hospital that was close by. So we got an Uber to go over to there, went into the ER, saw a doctor. They did the tests that they needed to do. I was in and out of there in 30 minutes, and it cost 57 euro. That's 57 euro, which is almost 57 US dollars, which seems incredible. How can that happen? In the US, it would have cost thousands. And so they gave me my prescription. I go to the pharmacy, cost me $32 to get my medicine, and I'm back on the ship. So now we do make sure that we block out a certain amount of time to go see our doctor every year to get our physical. We do that in Malaysia because it's a lot easier and more encompassed in the things that they will do. They do bone density,
Treadmill runs for 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's a complete physical, head to toe. Takes a whole day, but they give you your blood work. You see a doctor in the afternoon and tell you exactly what you want to hear. All the reports are done. And they speak English. They communicate better to us than most US doctors. It's just money well spent there.
You said that both of you moved around a lot when you were young, but when you're on a cruise ship, you can't have long-term friends who always come over on a Tuesday night. You know what I mean? And so I'm curious about how you feel about having friends that you're in touch with, and that's cool, but not having a sense of this is my home base and everybody knows they can find us here. Do you feel that way?
Never really had that in my life. I feel like I actually have more friends now versus when we just lived on land.
We have other friends that travel, and we meet up with them in different countries or ships. So, yeah, I get your point that we don't get to go see friends that often, but we do keep in touch with our friends via social media and strategically planning trips together.
Because you are so, I don't want to say dependent on each other, but you're such a team when it comes to making this happen on a long-term basis. Do you ever fight? And if so, you can't just drive away, right? Like, how do you resolve disagreements?
There's something that's bugging us. We talk about it. We talk through it.
Yeah. Sometimes we get stuck and we have to get unstuck.
Yeah.
And you're going to figure it out because you can't go anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Was there ever a time getting off of a cruise ship where you felt really sad about it?
Not really.
We'll walk on to certain ships and say, oh, we feel like we're home.
What kind of ships are those and how are they different?
Well, it's ones like the Westerdam with Holland America. We spent 110 days on there. We made some friends on there for life. And the crew is so welcoming, and it just feels like home because we know every inch of it. It's just like knowing your own home. You know where the sugar is. You know where the pillows are. You know where everything is stored, the blankets and all of that. You know it all. And you walk on and it's easy. And we just walk on to that ship and we're just like, we're home. We know exactly what to expect. We have no surprises going into that whatsoever. And it feels comforting.
Can you nutshell for me how you plan out, what is it, a year in advance, 6 months in advance? And you've got a spreadsheet and you figure out, okay, where do we want to go? What cruise lines? Do you use a travel agent? I know this is a 10-part question, but how do you figure out your future?
We do have a spreadsheet. Unfortunately, we are like a year out. We've committed ourselves for a year out already. We would like to be more spontaneous and do it 3 to 4 months out only, but that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to keep it spontaneous. That's the issue that we run into.
Well, we get so many good deals that you sit there and go, oh, that's a great deal. That's a great price. Because we're looking far out in advance and seeing some deals on cruises. And we're like, we need to get that because it's like a really awesome price. And so then what do? We build around that particular cruises that might get us into that port that's closer to the next cruise, or stay in a certain country for a week or two before that cruise. So we kind of schedule around whatever good deal we found. And it just kind of is like a puzzle piece on our spreadsheet that we just keep filling in this blank spots.
Yeah, I call it an anchor point. So we find a good deal and that becomes our anchor point, and then we build around each of those anchor points.
How long do you think you're going to do this for?
Basically until our bodies say that it's time to visit a nursing home.
Where would you like that nursing home to be?
We don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know exactly, but my dad happens to be in one, and it's like a cruise ship on land.
Yeah, it's a great nursing home.
So many activities that they have planned every day. It's like being on a cruise ship.
We'd still want to have that kind of fun and flexibility to do different things during the day.
And I hope that for you, sincerely. I love that you said that when you got the news that all your stuff burned up, that you were relieved. I don't know why that tickles me. I think that's so great.
Well, we have 5 children. And so there's a lot of stuff that's involved with 5 children. And I was packing so much stuff, and I got a rollaway dumpster and filled it full of stuff. It was just a process to get all of that to move. And so thinking about receiving all of that and unpacking this, it filled a whole semi truck. So I thought it was a wake-up call. The stuff doesn't matter. It's about the experiences. And I think that's the key to our journey. It's all about the experiences and where we're at and making the best of where we are. We don't live a ho-hum life on a ship where we do the same thing every day, eat the same thing, or anything like that. It's about trying new things and new experiences wherever we're at. Doesn't matter if we're on land or at sea. And if I could give anyone some advice in life, it would be declutter your life. And it's not just the physical things that you have in your life, but the people in your life too, that require too much of your time. that take up too much of your precious time during the day. Decluttering those people sometimes is a necessary thing in order to live your best life. It isn't about the stuff, about how many cars you have, what kind of car you have, how much jewelry you have, the new fragrance of perfume that's out. And people spend so much money. And I just want to ask them, do all of those things make you happy? If they do, fine. And then you'll be working a lot longer in the workforce. Do you want to do more than that? Do you want to travel? Do you want to volunteer with groups and work with children or animals? Or what is your passion in life? Find your passion and do your passion, because you only have one life. So declutter your life so that you can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, show me somebody who got something they wanted and stopped wanting.
Because the stuff, you have to have insurance on stuff. You have to clean the stuff. You have to store the stuff. The stuff just burdens you.
Well, Angelyn and Richard Burk, thank you so much for talking with me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Audacious is always lovingly produced by Jessica Severin DeMartinez, Meg Fitzgerald, and Robin Doyon-Aiken at Connecticut Public Radio in Hartford, with help from our interns Davina Cordero and Megan Rodriguez-Hawkins. Dig just a little bit into our archive and you'll find the episode we made from a cruise ship. I took a microphone with me on a 7-day trip from Brooklyn to the Bahamas and back with 5,000 souls on the MSC Meraviglia. Turns out, cruise ships have this magical way of allowing people to really open up to total strangers.
After being sober, I feel so good. I feel like me, And I still feel like every day I learn a little bit more about myself.
The things I've learned, you learned in prison. I've learned to depend on yourself.
Life is worth the pain, and this was a good ride. I'm drunk on life.
When I get cremated, I want my ashes to be in like an hourglass. When the kids have like family night and they play games, I could still be included, turn Papa over.
Sail away with me at ctpublic.org/audacious or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, if you've ever been on a plane or a cruise ship, you've probably come back with a souvenir. Well, wouldn't it be cool if you could take that souvenir or any object with a great story behind it and bring it to Show and Tell? Our 4th taping of Audacious Live Show and Tell is going to be at Little Red Barn Brewers in Winsted, Connecticut, and you are invited to bring your thing and enter for a chance to tell us all about it. You don't need a whole monologue prepared, just come up, talk about why this object matters to you, and chances are I'll have a few follow-up questions. Whether you bring a thing or not, it'll be a night full of heart, humor, and, as previous tapings have shown, stories that nobody sees coming. We'll see you at Little Red Barn Brewers in Winsted, Connecticut on Wednesday, April 8th, 2026. For tickets and more info, visit ctpublic.org/show and tell. Stay in touch with me on the socials at Kyone Wolf, and you can always send an email, audacious@ctpublic.org. Peace.
We can say